Hello, everybody. Welcome to the new relaunch of Hold My Beer. Thanks, everybody, for joining, and thanks for your patience. We had a little bit of technical difficulties here. Uh, Dr. Dre, introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Dr. Dreage. Don't need any, don't have any, don't want any, don't specialize in it. I can't use it. Thank you.
There you go. TJ.
That's interesting. He actually does have, TJ Knutson, man. Hey, it's great to be back, honestly. These discussions we've had, I apologize for coming on here a little bit later, but, there's times on and you're just excited. I mean, you're kind of buzzing a little bit because of the conversations that we've had. So, but yeah, I mean, we're going to get it from every angle, man. Tony's going to give what he can. He's not that smart, but he's got some, and from the shipper, Lewis has got a lot of good insights on the driver side, brokerage as well, but working more with assets carrier side now. So,
Yep. Hey, Lewis, introduce yourself, sir.
Yep, Louis Claudio, Dedicated Trucking LLC. It's been a while since we've done this. How long has it been since the last one? Like year and a half?
Close
2
to
years?
a year. Close to a year. Yeah.
No, it's been longer.
Christmas.
It's
not
been-
sure.
It's been
That
a
was
long
1 year.
time. It's been a long time for me.
So,
My name's Jeff. What's that?
Introduce yourself.
good.
Yep.
Welcome, Jeff. Introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Jeff Dickinson, owner and president of RGTX Logistics Solution. Been in it for a while. I am the broker. I really hate brokers, but that's part of the conversation we'll have today. Thank you, everybody, again for staying with us and having that patience. Today, we're going to talk about, I don't know, whatever comes up. So, hey, TJ, why don't you start it off, sir?
Yeah. So what I want to do is just kind of go a little bit about, it was a different type of year. Started off still pretty decent. You could start to turn a little bit, and I think a lot of people kind of noticed it. Started, wondering what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. I think in certain ways, others didn't. But I'm going to start off here. All right, Lewis, why don't you start off and to call me? I mean, we still talk. I used to run Lewis back in the day. He was part of my fleet when I was managing that, and come in. After he lived local, so after he was done, he'd come in and sit by my desk with me, and we just talk numbers and talk freight and strategies and stuff. Very, very bright. So, what were you seeing out there? I know you kind of even fluctuated on what you were doing, right? On how you were running, changing and things.
Yeah, well, back before you and I were kind of, and I was dropping in the office because I was local there under Circle. I noticed a trend that was happening when you were there, and that was, what the bridge that you were trying to build to get, to build the gap you were trying to, build with that bridge with operators and brokerage. And I thought that was the greatest thing ever, man. No one, I had not experienced that before then. So as I left Circle, or I went solo with the business, that I still was not just admired by that, but I was like, man, that's something that we got to keep feeding that culture. We have to, all across the board, between brokerage and operator,
Yes.
all over the board, right? Like it has to be a very unified movement. I always say there's plenty of enough money in this industry for everybody. There's really no need to, stab anyone in the back or
No.
create a divide where it's just, it just becomes everything but what we're trying to do, and let's move this country's freight. We don't have to be sharks about it. We can be decent about it. We can be smart about it. We can be profitable about it. But, I haven't lost that desire, if you will, to want to continue educating people with that on both sides. It's just been a gnarly 2 years,
damn
especially
it.
as an owner, man. It's been you've seen everything from from what the market has never done in its history since it started 100 years ago. And now you're seeing, fuel tripled, and that, as I shared with you guys a while back on LinkedIn, you saw, I spent 160K in fuel last year. With fuel being $6, that's not hard to do. There were guys spending 2 to 250. As a one truck owner op, you really start to question a lot, right? Like that's not why I got in this industry, right? But at the same time, what's your goal? What are you trying to do? What do you want to do with this business? And I know personally, I've got desires to grow. I've got desires to grow our business, but it's tricky. It's tricky right now, for the small guys. It's great for the big guys. They can they got all the capital there. It's very easy for them to do. It's not, I don't want to say easy. It's not very smart for me to go buy 5 or 10 trucks tomorrow. That's not smart. It's a quick way to get out of the game, especially in these times.
Yep.
So it's I am what I am right now, and I'm an owner. I'm a single owner op, and I got to put food on the table. So that's what we're doing, until we figure out how we want to grow.
What's your biggest issue, Louis? I mean, if you're going to narrow it down, what's the biggest issue that you're seeing out there for yourself as an owner op?
I don't know that I would say as a single owner op there's issues, because in this industry, as an owner op, you can make an incredible living. It's awesome. I always say if I didn't have my wife and my children, I would never come home. I would buy a $300,000 rig, and I would just trick it out to exactly what I needed, and I would stay on the road. You can literally see the world and make a crap ton of money doing it in a short span of time. Like, who wouldn't want to give a quote unquote 2 years of their life to sit in a truck and make $500,000 to $1 million? That's very doable. It's very doable. You can be smart about it, and you can save your cash. And when the famine is high, some of us put cash away. And that's what I personally did when it was really high. I put cash away. Built our capital. And some people didn't do that. They couldn't afford to stay in, and that's why you saw, like, I forget how many revocations, 5,000 some revocations, but last September. So I don't know that I want to say there's anything. The job itself is hard, if you're going to run OTR. But as a company guy, it's tricky. That's a fine line. Like, you have to really invest in those people if you want to retain them at that position. Because a company guy will not think like an owner will, and nor will they treat that truck as that mentality, because they're not owners, they're employees. So you have to give those employees reasons to stay, because there's tons of reasons for them to go everywhere. Literally, they go to the next trucking company. There's hundreds of them. So for those people, I would always say you've got to take care of those drivers if you want to, keep your company healthy or retain those, keep your retention numbers up. You just got to take care of those people. And that's a lot of what TJ was doing over there at Circle. He was doing one of the best jobs of that, and I was seriously impressed by that. I'd never seen that up until that point. It was the opposite. It was like every man for himself. It's like, figure it out, right? Like, that's how I got in. It's just figure it out.
Right.
So educating the guys now is probably the big thing. Teaching them, if you're going to have a business and you want it to grow, you got to create that culture. You got to create that line of communication, especially with your drivers. You have to take care of them. Mm-hmm. If they're going to stick around and work for you, you got to take care of them. You just do.
Indeed.
That was the biggest thing. When you look at it, I was wearing a lot of hats at that. And that's that value of and then going on the brokers. Now, a lot of those on the broker, implementations and processes, I am myself too. So I kind of knew how they worked. But you got too. I mean, as your broker, some loads that are $800, $900 rips, right? We've got a driver in the area and he wants that load. You got student loans. You want to get married. You need that $900 rip, man, because you can anything commission wise because they're paid a certain amount. So implementing some incentives, in there too. It has to kind of balance. Whether you're working with a shipper, a driver, a broker, carrier, incentive on both sides to do it. A lot of companies don't that way, but it works. And then too is that a lot of these guys that are in the Lewis, you're in the truck, you notice it. One of the guys driving the truck actually notices that infrastructure change. But a lot of this show is about is just bringing everybody together. We all eat. How do we all end up being to help each other? And it's there. I mean, bitch, complain, say whatever they want. And woe is me. But I'm sorry, man. Like that's how. And you're just gonna get weeded out. I mean, you can punt, but that's how it works, man. That's capitalism. That's how, it's a what?
Yeah, this
6-year cycle every time, 5-year cycle.
Yeah, this industry, it'll definitely weed out the people who just want to try it because it's something new and it's a cool thing to do, to the reality of, are you doing this for fun? Are you doing this because you want to survive? Or are you doing this because you want to grow? Like, those are all three different places. They're all three different drivers, all three different mentalities.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
there's two things that come to mind. First and foremost, I appreciate you for sure. Being a single owner op that's out there. A lot of owner operators that I've spoken with over the years, decades, one of their biggest problems that they had when they were out there was weather related. And the biggest thing they used to say is, I'm not taking my rig out there because if I happen to get an accident, I lose my income. I can't pay my mortgage. I can't do this. I can't do that. My kids' college education, etc. What do you feel about that? I mean, you have to make a living. The risk is out there. You go to shippers. There's a lot of shippers out there that don't take care of their property. Their landlords don't shovel. It's hazardous for the drivers. There's huge liability out there.
Oh yeah,
those kind of things that are so small doesn't take a lot of time. That could save them a tremendous amount of money, especially like a nuclear verdict, so to speak. If that driver happens to slip, he doesn't have his income, he can't make a living, his truck hits the wall or whatever it might be. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah. Well, as an owner op, I mean, I'm one accident away from losing my business. Just one, not two, not a no fault, not an at fault, any accident.
Yep.
And last year I was in one. I was involved in an accident. It was two things went well for me. It was the state I was in was a no fault, and it was literally not my fault. Another vehicle veered into my lane, and I just kept her straight. That's all I was doing. Just normal driving through Kentucky. Just kept it straight. That vehicle hit my grill guard and went flying into a concrete barrier, and literally almost exploded when that car hit. Now when that happened, this all happened real fast, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking, I hope there weren't any kids in that car. Like it was horrible is what went through my mind. So I had pulled over and waited for the cops to come up, and he talked to me. He's like, hey, what happened? Tell me your side of the story. I said, this car, I could, it sat so low to the ground that if it weren't for my grill guard, I would have sucked that car right up under me. It would have just I'd have just rolled right over that car, full truck and trailer, like it was in butter. But because I had that grill guard, he caught that part as he was coming into my lane, and that spun him into the wall. So the guy didn't have insurance. There were no kids in the car. He said they could hardly speak English. So just a lot of things ended up working out in my favor in that. Now that doesn't happen like that typically. Typically there's a death involved. It's a nasty accident. It's not just one car. We were in 4-lane traffic moving, and I'm talking all this happened so fast. I could not believe it. And again, all I had done was I was just sitting in my lane, just sitting there with 10 and 2, just cruising along. So yeah, we're always one accident away from as if we're an owner op from losing it all of it, all of it. It takes one accident to get sued and you lose your business.
Well,
Just
you know,
one.
We're all in that same boat.
Lewis, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I want shippers out there and people that don't understand what drivers go through, during the Four Seasons, in any part of the country, what they go through, just so they can realize, how difficult that it is, because there's so many shippers out there that just take drivers for granted. You pull up to my dock, I load you, I don't care about you, you're just whatever. And there's no real collaboration at all with them. Now, I don't know you that well, Lewis, and so I have to ask you this question. Do you work strictly for TJ, or are you working for other brokers, and how many shippers do you touch dock with on a weekly, monthly basis?
No, I'm all over the place. I work with several different brokers. I've worked with so many different brokers, all types. I've certain ones I don't work with. There's certain ones I will work with because we have a good relationship. So
That's good.
I'm in a really good area to be an owner operator. The area I live in, it's perfect for this industry. But at the same time, I've got kids, I've got my wife and my family, and we're adopting our third daughter. Like any day now. So my focus has shifted from when I started the business, big time, right? To like, how can I slowly either get out of the truck or do something less risky? Because if I were younger, it'd be different. If I was younger with no family, I would still be hungry. I would still be ambitious. I just kind of got to shift the direction of the business. But yeah, I work with all kinds of brokers and people in the industry. But yeah, that's a real big. It depends on the the owner operator and then the age and then what they're trying to do. If they're leased on or they just want to. Which again, there's nothing wrong. I'm not leased on. I own the company 100%.
Nice.
And I just wanted to have the control that way, to be able to control it and just literally run it the way I want to. It's a freedom thing for me. It's I just wanted to have full freedom on my time and work as hard as I wanted to and work not as hard as I wanted to, and come and go as I please. That's why I chose to be an owner op.
But see,
what's the biggest?
you made a good decision. Like you had it
your shipper
down.
Go ahead. Go ahead with your question, Jeff. Who had a question?
What is the biggest issue that you face at your shippers that you see?
Well, early on, when I started realizing what the trend was, I stopped working with those brokers. The brokers who were dishonest, who were deceiving, who would only tell you just enough and think that you were the dumb driver who would just believe them and or not believe them. You learn that real fast. You learn how the industry works. And so I just stayed away from that. I said, shame on me, shame if it happens once, shame on me. If it happens twice, shame on you, quote or whatever. I just stayed away from that. I started building customer relationships. So I work with the same people, same lanes, and that's for me, I kind of learned that pretty quick.
Yeah. But see, you were good. I mean, it didn't just happen overnight, I remember.
No, yeah.
We had big accounts, right? We had big accounts, the lanes needed ran. Like we had to run drivers to get it done at the time because the market was so. I used to talk to you, you'd be like, man, these guys are out, you could go do that, and chase that. This is what these guys are doing, but you've got something that's dedicated. And you would take pictures and send me a picture. 1 minute left on and you just set the brake, right? I mean, you had it in T. And so the day you called me, it's huge. I couldn't lose drivers, but the day on MC, do you know anything about it? Yeah. I mean, you did. I mean, I just knew you do that, and that's the difference. Is a lot of these drivers, you're taking all good at it, like you said before. These big companies have the capital, litigation, all that stuff like that. But I mean, I remember having drivers that like no other, and like they couldn't even afford an accident. if something
Yeah.
came out and or whatever, and it's 5K, I mean, now you don't have that 5K, borrowing from
Yeah,
escrow.
I think that's one of the biggest misunderstandings that owner operators or people who want to become an owner op are misled about, and that is this is a business. It is a literal business. Like, if you don't do research on what it is, how to run a business, your business is going to fall overnight. The thing about this business is it's the gnarliest, grittiest business you could ever, most expensive startup you could ever get into. And at the time, I didn't really understand that. I was focused on just grinding and grinding and working as hard as I could to build capital. Because I knew that one thing. I knew if I knew nothing else, is I had to build capital. I had to build it. Well, you got to disappear to do that in this industry. Aside from your expenses, to save a buck, man, you got to work your butt off. Because it's one thing to make a buck and keep a buck. It's another thing to make a buck, keep a buck, and save a buck.
I tell
So
people,
yeah,
I have tons of company drivers that have come to me and said, "Hey, how do I get in this? I want to buy my own truck." And I tell them, buy your own truck, go put somebody in it, pay them what you think they ought to earn, and then keep the difference after you do all of the work of accounts collectible, accounts receivable, and no pay, slow pay, maintenance, tires, upkeep, breakdowns. Do all of that and see if you're making enough money. Then go buy a truck and put yourself in it, because there's 3 different jobs you're taking on as a driver, owner, operator.
Right.
It's owner/operator. Owner is one job, operator is another job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and when you're in the truck, you're operating. When I go home, that's when I do the owner part of it. That's when I'm doing all my paperwork.
Yep. I have a good friend who was a one truck owner op, and he ran, and his child support was taken off of his gross income. Well, then he came and worked for me at a company and went to the judge, and the judge said, your pay went down too much. And he said, no, you're just basing it off of my gross, not my net. And he said, I can't shock your daughter's lifestyle like that.